The birth of heraldry. In the 12th century, Europe's battlefields were filled with armored knights who all looked the same. Hidden behind helmets, covered in shining metal, it became almost impossible to tell friend from foe once the fighting began. At first, warriors tried to distinguish themselves by carrying banners or gonfalons bearing the colors of their lords. But banners could be lost, torn, or hidden in the chaos of war. Something more personal and reliable was needed, a sign each knight could carry upon his own shield. That is how painted shields came to life. Each knight began to decorate his armor with bold, easily recognizable images. For example, a red lion, a silver cross, 3 golden stars. These symbols made it possible to identify allies at a glance and to follow one's leader even in the confusion of battle. What began as a practical solution soon became a proud declaration of identity. The earliest known examples of heraldic shields appeared around the middle of the 12th century, during the time of the Second Crusade between 1147 and 1149. Knights from across Europe gathered under the same holy banner, and many sought ways to distinguish themselves from others who fought for the same cause. Out of this need for recognition, a new visual language began to form, the art we now call heraldry. By the 1180s, painted shields and personal emblems had spread throughout Western Europe. Knights displayed their colors not only on shields, but on surcoats, banners, and even on the coverings of their horses. What had started as a simple mark of recognition turned into a symbol of family, loyalty, and honor. These designs began to be passed from father to son, marking the early beginnings of hereditary arms. Heraldry soon left the battlefield and entered the world of ceremony. Tournaments became grand spectacles where knights competed for prestige and renown. In these peaceful contests, heraldic symbols became essential, allowing spectators and heralds to recognize each competitor. The shield had become not just a weapon of war, but a statement of who a knight was and where he came from. By the early 13th century, heraldry had developed clear rules and traditions. Colors, divisions, and figures followed specific patterns, ensuring that every coat of arms remained unique. Through these designs, a man's story could be told, his achievements, his loyalties, his lineage. What began as a mark of survival had transformed into a lasting emblem of identity that would endure for centuries. The spread of heraldry. As the 13th century unfolded, heraldry became an integral part of European culture. No longer limited to the noble warriors of the battlefield, the use of coats of arms spread across all levels of society. Clergymen, merchants, and even towns began to adopt their own symbols. What had begun as a knight's personal mark became a universal system of identity and status. Seals were the first bridge between the martial and civil use of heraldry. In a world where few people could write their names, the wax seal became a personal signature. Knights pressed their heraldic design into wax, confirming the authenticity of their letters and decrees. Soon, cities, guilds, and universities followed their example, using coats of arms as a mark of authority and tradition. Heraldic imagery appeared on walls, tombs, stained glass, and manuscripts. Churches bore the arms of noble patrons who had funded their construction. Universities incorporated symbols of knowledge and faith into their seals. Guilds proudly displayed the tools of their trade, hammers, looms, or scales, turned into heraldic charges that spoke of craftsmanship and pride. By the 14th century, heraldry had evolved into an organized and respected discipline. It had become both art and science, balancing strict rules with creative expression. Each design was carefully described in words through a specialized language called blazon, which allowed anyone trained in heraldry to recreate a coat of arms from description alone. This system ensured that heraldic symbols remained consistent across generations and countries. The heralds, guardians of order. The rise of heraldry brought with it a new profession, the heralds. They were scholars, messengers, and masters of ceremony, serving both in peace and in war. On the battlefield, they carried the flags and messages of kings, often moving safely between enemy lines under a banner of truce. In times of celebration, they organized tournaments and royal entries, announcing the names and titles of those who took part. A herald's knowledge was immense. They memorized the arms of countless noble families, recorded genealogies, and ensured that no two coats of arms were the same. Their authority in questions of lineage and symbolism made them indispensable in medieval society. Above all heralds stood the kings of arms, the highest rank in the heraldic hierarchy, who supervised entire regions and granted new coats of arms by royal authority. By the late Middle Ages, offices of heralds were established in many countries, from England and France to the Holy Roman Empire. Their duties included keeping detailed registers of arms, confirming noble titles, and advising rulers on matters of rank and precedence. In England, this tradition survives even today through the College of Arms, founded in the 15th century, which still governs the right to bear heraldic arms. The right to bear arms. From the beginning, a coat of arms was more than a decoration. It was a right. In the early days, knights simply chose their own designs. But as heraldry grew in importance, rules were introduced. Only those of noble birth or those granted the privilege by a sovereign could bear arms officially. This ensured that heraldry remained a mark of honor and legitimacy. Receiving a coat of arms was a form of recognition, often granted for loyalty, courage, or great service to the crown. Yet not every armiger was a nobleman. Many citizens, craftsmen, and soldiers received arms as a symbol of personal merit. Heraldry thus became a bridge between birthright and achievement, a sign of both heritage and earned respect. Over generations, coats of arms were passed down through families, changing slightly with each marriage or alliance. Symbols might be combined, colors divided, or new figures added to represent new bloodlines. These modifications followed strict heraldic rules, maintaining both individuality and continuity. When a noble family died out, its arms were said to be vacant. Their story ended, their symbols retired. But the records remained, carefully kept by heralds, preserving the memory of those who once bore them. In this way, heraldry became not only a system of identification but a form of historical memory, a visual archive of the past. The language of the shield. Every coat of arms is built upon a shield, the central and most important part of the design. The shield's shape varied from country to country and from age to age. Rounded Norman shields in the early days, later the pointed Gothic type, and eventually more ornate Renaissance forms. The style of the shield could often reveal the era or region from which it came. Upon the shield lay the charges, the figures and symbols that gave the arms their meaning. These could be simple geometric shapes called ordinaries, crosses, bars, chevrons, or natural forms like animals, stars, and flowers. Each carried its own symbolism. The lion stood for courage, the eagle for sovereignty, the cross for faith. Color also played a vital role. Heraldic colors known as tinctures followed strict conventions. Gold symbolized generosity, silver represented purity, red for valor, blue for loyalty, green for hope, and black for constancy or grief. No color combination was random. Every shade and division had a purpose and a message. Above the shield was the helmet, its style and position reflecting the rank of the bearer. Resting on top of the helmet was the crest, often depicting a beast, a hand, or a crown, something easily seen from afar. Flowing from it was the mantling, a cloth that once served to protect the helmet from the sun, later stylized as decorative flourishes torn by battle. Beneath all, a scroll often carried the family motto, expressing the guiding principle or ideal of its bearer. Together, these elements formed the complete coat of arms, a structured yet expressive portrait of identity. The legacy of heraldry. By the 15th century, heraldry had reached every corner of European life. Churches, castles, and cities bore coats of arms carved in stone and painted on glass. Noble families displayed them on manuscripts and tombs. Guilds and universities used them to represent their institutions. What had once been the language of knights had become the language of civilization itself. As warfare changed and armor disappeared, the practical need for heraldry faded, but its symbolic power endured. Coats of arms became expressions of tradition, used in state ceremonies, official documents, and architectural decoration. Even as society moved beyond the age of chivalry, heraldry remained a link to the ideals of honor, service, and lineage. Modern nations inherited much of their symbolism from heraldic tradition. Flags, emblems, and logos often trace their design principles back to medieval shields, strong colors, clear forms, and meaningful symbols. The discipline that once organized the chaos of battle continues to organize the way we represent identity today. Heraldry survives not only in royal institutions but also in local communities, universities, and families proud of their heritage. It endures as a reminder of humanity's desire to be seen, to belong, and to leave a mark that outlasts a lifetime.